There is something deeply unsettling about a vault that opens itself. No code, no handprint, no keyed authority. Only time and fate dictate when its cyclopean doors part. That is the Omega Vault, sealed in silence at the core of Watch Fortress Erioch. To stand before it is to feel the weight of eons. It is said that even the Adeptus Astartes, warriors bred for terror and death, find themselves hesitating in its presence. It breathes with a quiet menace, a machine of unknown origin that delivers omens, weapons, and relics only when the stars deem it right. To those stationed at Erioch, the vault is more than a mystery. It is the heartbeat of the fortress, the one element untouched even by the Death Watch's grim practicality. When it opens, everything stops. Strategies shift. Entire kill teams are redirected. Some even believe it speaks through its offerings, guiding the Imperium through the abyss of the Jericho Reach. And now, its rhythms are accelerating. More chambers have opened in the past few years than in the preceding centuries. Something is changing. Something old, something vast, something terrible is awakening. And the Omega Vault is the first to feel it. Watch Fortress Erioch was not built. It was discovered. That is the whisper among the oldest members of the Death Watch, those few veterans who remember the dark time when the Jericho Reach was merely a cursed name on forbidden maps. The fortress sits like a black cyst on the edge of real space, its walls of adamantium and stone fused with age and secrecy. Officially, Erioch was selected and fortified at the command of the Ordo Xenos when the Jericho Reach was to be reconnected through the Jericho Gate. But nothing about it feels made by human hands, not entirely. Its angles are wrong in places, its core deeper than any architect's records show. It hums at night, a low mechanical sound that pulses through the bones. No one truly claims to have built the Omega Vault, not even the Tech Marines who maintain it. The Adeptus Mechanicus speak of it in ritual tones, unable to explain its workings yet unwilling to dismantle it for study. It sits at the heart of Erioch like an ancient cog in a machine no longer understood. When the fortress was reoccupied, the vault was already there, sealed, impenetrable, and humming with a lifeless energy. Explorators who tried to breach it during the earliest days of reoccupation vanished or went mad, until finally it was decided the vault would remain as it was. Then, without warning, it opened. Not completely, just a single chamber. Inside was a weapon, marked with symbols unknown to any record, yet perfectly adapted to eliminate a specific Xenos organism that had not yet appeared in the Reach. The implications were staggering. That moment cemented Erioch's purpose. It would not just be a bastion or a forward command, it would be a guardian. The Death Watch, chosen from among the most elite Xenos hunters of the Imperium, would hold the fortress not merely to prosecute the Emperor's vengeance on alien kind, but to guard this inexplicable relic. The Omega Vault became their secret burden, their hidden responsibility. Even the Inquisition treads carefully around it. The lords of the Ordo Xenos might whisper commands, but they do not presume to unlock its secrets. Over the years, more sections of the vault would open, always at a time of crisis, always revealing something that seemed either prophetic or crucial to the survival of the sector. A kill code for a tyrannid bioform never before seen. A crystal that emits pulses which disrupt Necron phase fields. A book that none can read, yet all who gaze upon it for long enough are racked with visions of future war. The vault was not a passive cache. It was active. It chose what to give and when. Its behavior could not be predicted, and yet it shaped the fate of the Jericho Reach again and again. In this way, Watch Fortress Erioch became both a symbol and a riddle. Its inhabitants, even the towering space marines of the Death Watch, speak of it in hushed tones. Some believe the vault is a test placed by the Emperor himself, a final trial to see who might be worthy of truth. Others, darker and fewer, suspect it was left behind by something else entirely, an alien hand that guides, manipulates, even protects. For now. None of this would matter, perhaps, if not for where Erioch lies. The Jericho Reach is not just a battlefield. It is a wound. A place that once thrived, now infected by the worst horrors the galaxy can conjure. That Erioch, with its mysterious heart, stands at the center of it all is no accident. It is a bastion, yes, but more than that, it is a seal. And the vault within it might not be guarding something to be used. It might be keeping something far worse from getting out. The Jericho Reach is not merely a contested war zone. It is a dead empire. Long ago, during the dark days of the Age of Apostasy, it was cut off from the wider Imperium, swallowed by warp storms and chaos-born tides. Entire sectors, once proud and luminous in Imperial light, were cast adrift into darkness. Civilizations fell into ruin. Isolated planetary systems devolved into barbarism, apostasy, or worse, turned their faith to other gods. The scar of this loss still lingers, a wound festering with rebellion, Xenos incursion, and ancient sins unexpiated. When the warp storms finally abated and the Achilles Crusade surged forth through the newly opened Jericho Gate, they did not find grateful survivors or loyal outposts. They found desolation. They found a reach that had not merely forgotten the Emperor. It had been reshaped in his absence. Heretical demagogues ruled from golden spires. Forgotten imperial worlds had grown monstrous, their cultures twisted by centuries without the light of the Astronomicon. On others, alien powers reigned supreme, Tau colonists pushing their bright, seductive utopia, Orc empires bloated by centuries of unchecked growth, and worst of all, shadowed systems infested with the harbingers of the Great Devourer. This is why the Death Watch came, not as conquerors, but as surgeons with bolter and flame. The Jericho Reach was not a campaign. It was a purification. The kinds of threats found here were not simple heretics or alien raiders. They were planetary-scale abominations, cryptic Xenos intelligences, and infectious ideologies that could rot an entire subsector from within. And yet, as the Death Watch pushed deeper into the Reach, patterns began to emerge. Patterns that could not be explained by random Xenos activity or the simple entropy of a lost region. It was as if the Reach was designed to test the Imperium. Threats arrived not just in great numbers, but with surgical precision. Entire kill teams vanished during operations that should have been routine. Xenos warlords appeared with tactics far more sophisticated than their species had demonstrated elsewhere. Deathwatch records began to note strange congruencies, an attack by the Tau coinciding with the awakening of a Necron tomb, which in turn drew a Tyranid splinter fleet to that system. It was too neat, too orchestrated. Some began to suspect that the Reach was a crucible, a place where something, some power or intelligence, was pitting Xenos against mankind in escalating waves, as though testing responses, learning, adapting. And at the heart of this experiment stood Watch Fortress Erioch. Not just a forward base, but a fulcrum. The Imperium's countermove. A fortress that didn't just observe these rising patterns of war, but one whose Omega Vault seemed to know them ahead of time. To the Inquisition, this was both invaluable and terrifying. A vault that opened itself, delivering tools and intelligence at the exact moment of need. Either the ultimate weapon or the ultimate manipulator. Erioch's strategic value became incalculable, but its existence also meant that something or someone had foreseen the fall of the Jericho Reach. Someone had planned for it. That realization turned the Reach from a battlefield into a puzzle, and each Xenos threat became a cipher, a data point in a war of metaphysical significance. The more battles were fought, the more questions emerged. Why did certain systems resist Xenos incursions unnaturally well? Why were certain artifacts drawn from the Omega Vault clearly designed for specific threats that should have been unknown? What did it mean that sometimes the vault opened before a kill team had even departed, as though predicting an ambush not yet sprung? The Jericho Reach was not simply lost. It was sculpted, molded by something outside the ordinary dimensions of time and space. That is the true horror. The Reach is not just a place where the Imperium wages war. It is a stage, and someone, perhaps many, are watching. Beneath the fortress-like reverence for the Death Watch lies something colder, something more intimate with dread. Watch Fortress Erioch is alive in a way no other bastion in the Imperium dares to be. Not with sentience, perhaps, but with constant vigilance, a pressure that pushes inward from every wall, every hallway. Within its labyrinthine structure, carved deep into the black stone of an asteroid whose true origin has long since been lost, Erioch is less a station and more a cathedral of war. But unlike the grand halls of the ecclesiarchy or the ornate spires of Terra, Erioch worships through silence, through steel, and through secrecy. The fortress is organized with brutal logic. Kill team launch bays, reliquary vaults, strategy sanctums, astropathic shrines, and Xenos containment chambers form a tangled web of function and suppression. The air here is heavy with incantations of maintenance, incense masking the scent of unwashed ceramite, and the metallic sting of Xenos ichor from experiments best not spoken aloud. Every corridor is a memory of death, fresh or ancient. Even the servitors here are quiet, moving on tracks with eerie precision, their eyes dim, their mouths sealed. The most common inhabitants, of course, are the Death Watch Space Marines themselves. Clad in jet-black power armor, their shoulders the only remnant of their parent chapters, they carry not just bolters, but centuries of war doctrine. These are warriors not defined by battle alone, but by specialization. Alien slayers, bioform assassins, archaeotech interpreters. They come from 1,000 different battlefields, united by a vow that surpasses even loyalty to their chapter, the silent crusade against the Xenos. And they are not alone. Magos biologists wander the halls in silence, their faces obscured behind vox-muffled masks. Ordo Xenos Inquisitors maintain private chambers, each one like a cloistered library of heresy waiting to be burned. There are astropaths who do not sleep, and lex mechanics who write in binary tongues only the Vault can translate. Then there are the Watch Commanders, chosen not for ambition, but for the bone-deep resolve it takes to stand between man and alien in a place where the line is often blurred. These individuals do not merely live in Erioch, they are shaped by it. Sleep is rare, reflection dangerous. Time bends in the halls closest to the Omega Vault, where the air itself seems to pulse in anticipation. Visitors report lost hours, missing memories, and strange symbols etched into the edges of their vision after spending time too near the vault's doors. Even veterans speak of dreams, dreams not their own, carried like echoes in the steel walls. And yet, despite the dread, Erioch functions. Its launch bays rarely fall silent. Kill teams are constantly rotated in and out, their missions read from data slates barely warmed from the vault's last opening. Weapon caches are updated by unseen hands. Relics from long-dead Xeno civilizations arrive in sealed containment units with no return signature. The fortress breathes war, and it demands total submission from those within. More disturbingly, the deeper one goes, the less human it feels. There are levels beneath Erioch's official maps, chambers spoken of only in passing, a room that never holds the same dimensions twice, a hallway where vox signals die, but you can still hear whispering, a vault that has remained sealed for centuries, but emanates heat in perfect rhythmic intervals like a heartbeat. For all its martial pride, Erioch is not a place of comfort. It is a test, a trial of will, faith, and resistance against the dark seductions of forbidden knowledge. And at its core lies the Omega Vault, the black lung through which the fortress breathes its cold prophecy. Those who serve here do so not because they seek glory, but because someone must bear the weight of what the rest of the Imperium dares not know. To walk the halls of Erioch is to abandon the illusion that humanity controls its destiny. Here, the walls know your name before you arrive. Here, the doors open not by command, but by design. Here, silence speaks louder than the Inquisition's decree, and always, always the vault waits. The Omega Vault is unlike any structure known to the Imperium. It does not respond to keys or commands. It has no identifiable servitor interface, no ports for Mechanicus code, and no recognized manufacturer. And yet, it moves. Not at the will of any mortal hand, but by its own rhythm, an inscrutable cadence that defies all attempts at prediction or manipulation. When it opens, it does so with thunderous finality. Pistons hiss, gears grind, and cyclopean doors part to reveal chambers that had not existed moments before. These openings are not heralded by alarms or warnings. Instead, they are often accompanied by silence so absolute that even the Auspex systems fail to register the sound of it. Physically, the vault resembles a deep, multi-tiered heart of blackened ceramite and alloyed adamantium, etched with glyphs that no Imperial scholar can fully interpret. Some of these symbols pulse faintly when viewed under certain spectrums of light, suggesting a technology, or sorcery, far beyond the known limits of the Mechanicus. Deep within, the vault comprises nested chambers, many of which appear only once. After delivering their contents, artifacts, weapons, or cryptic messages, they close again and are never seen to open in the same way again. It is almost as though the vault rebuilds itself constantly, reshaping the internal pathways to prevent the same path being walked twice. No one has mapped the entire structure. Attempts to do so have resulted in corrupted data, vanished personnel, or madness. Servitors sent into the vault's innermost levels return blank-eyed and mind-wiped, if they return at all. Even the bravest of the Death Watch regard the vault with reverence and caution. To request entry into a newly opened chamber is an act of both courage and desperation, often driven by the direst of needs. What makes the vault truly disturbing is not just the relics it contains, but the timing of their emergence. It has become clear that the vault opens only when needed, though never when asked. A weapon appears days before a new Xenos bioform arrives. A data crystal glows with script that describes events which have not yet occurred. On more than one occasion, a chamber has opened to reveal the corpse of a being not yet known to exist. Time, it seems, is not linear within the Omega Vault. Or if it is time seen through another lens entirely. Some within the Inquisition speculate that the Vault may be operating on chronal principles similar to those of Necron stasis crypts or Eldar time paths. Others suspect something darker, that the Vault is not merely responding to the needs of the Imperium, but manipulating them. After all, a gift given at the right moment can redirect an entire war. And Erioch has changed its battle doctrine more than once in response to what the Vault chose to deliver. There are also reports, though unconfirmed, of chambers that open to reveal nothing. Empty rooms, barren cells. And yet, those who entered them came out changed. Some were struck mute, others spoke in dead languages. One watch captain, a veteran of 3 centuries of Xenos warfare, emerged weeping, speaking only of the void between the wars. He was removed to a stasis crypt shortly thereafter and has not been seen since. And then there are the dreams. Personnel stationed near the vault, especially those in long-term assignments, begin to report shared dreams, visions of alien stars, battles not yet fought, symbols that reappear in different forms across Xenos species. The Magos biologists have no explanation, nor do the psychers, but they record the dreams all the same. The vault, they say, might be a vessel not of matter, but of memory. It is no longer questioned whether the Omega Vault is a machine or an oracle. It is both, or perhaps neither. It may be a fragment of something larger, an ark from a dead god, a beacon from another reality, a remnant of a time when the galaxy was younger and less divided. All that is known for certain is this: the vault is not passive. It reacts, it chooses, and it always opens for a reason, even if no one alive can yet understand what that reason is. When the Omega Vault opens, it does not just give. It teaches, warns, and demands. Its contents are not trinkets or trophies. They are harbingers. Every object, every whisper of data arrives with weight, the sense that it has emerged not only through time, but against time, fighting to reach the Imperium before something far worse can. The recorded openings, though rare and scattered across centuries, form a tapestry of escalating tension, each event more uncanny than the last. There was the arrival of the Varn pattern disintegrator, an anti-organic beam weapon of completely unknown provenance, resembling nothing from Mechanicus archives or any known Xeno species. It appeared moments after the death of a watch sergeant whose kill team was ambushed by a previously unseen form of Genestealer hybrid. The weapon, when field-tested, proved uniquely suited to obliterate Tyrannid synapse organisms. It arrived too late to save that kill team, but it changed the course of the sector's defense. Then came the manuscript of Stone Echoes. Not a weapon, but a stack of obsidian plates inscribed with pulse-like grooves that responded to psychic touch. When decoded by the Death Watch's Psyker librarians, it revealed not text, but a rhythmic pattern that synchronized with the heartbeat of orc war bosses on a nearby moon. Applied in the field, it destabilized their coordination during a massive wah. Without that document, the fortress likely would have been overwhelmed. That document has never stopped pulsing. Another time, the vault opened to present a stasis chamber, within which lay a severed Xenos head, the creature's species unidentified. Within hours, an inquisitorial ship fleeing an uncharted system crash-landed near Erioch. The survivors described being attacked by a Xenos force, matching the decapitated specimen in form and behavior. That head, retrieved before any recorded contact with its kind, was now the only sample available for study. The coincidence was too sharp to ignore. There are the prophetic warnings, too, etched into bone, blinking in binary across empty screens, or whispered in High Gothic through Vox systems not connected to any source. One such message came moments before a fleet translated from the warp into a kill zone where a Xenos alliance had formed. The message named the location, the time, and 3 of the ships that would be destroyed if action wasn't taken. No one knows how it knew. The fleet was rerouted. The prophecy proved true. Not every gift is so direct. Some are puzzles wrapped in horror. A kill team once returned with a metallic shard taken from the vault, cold, inert, seemingly meaningless. Weeks later, it began resonating when placed near Necron technology. It matched the frequency of a Necron stasis crypt's defensive field, allowing the team to bypass what would have been certain death. But the shard had begun to hum before they even knew where they were going. Before their mission briefing was even drafted. There are darker accounts, entries redacted or sealed by the highest authority. A room filled with still-living clones of an Imperial saint, all comatose and muttering in synchrony. A star map showing a region of space that no longer exists. A helmet fused to a skull that speaks when no one watches. These items were recovered, documented, and then hidden away again, either within the deeper levels of the vault or shipped to unknown destinations under inquisitorial edict. The Watch Fortress has tried to study the pattern. Every opening is logged. Every effect, every result is analyzed by scribes and savants. The Magos have constructed entire subcogitators to trace the timing of vault events with galactic phenomena. So far, no definitive algorithm has emerged. It remains maddeningly elusive, always precise, never predictable. But one trend has been noted. The openings are increasing. Where once the vault might reveal itself once every decade, now it stirs every few years. Sometimes multiple times in a solar cycle. The implications are clear and chilling. Something is accelerating. The vault is preparing. Whether this is a sign of its benevolence or its exhaustion, none can say. But its contents speak in a single terrible voice. The galaxy is hurtling toward something, and the Omega Vault is shouting as loudly as it can. Among the most disturbing questions surrounding the Omega Vault is the simplest. Who built it? Not a single sigil, seal, or cog-engraved rune confirms its origin. No Forge World claims it. No record of its construction exists in any Imperial archive. This is not uncommon in a galaxy awash with forgotten history, but the Vault is not just lost technology. It is beyond. It surpasses the limits of what humanity has created or even imagined. Its materials resist standard classification. Its mechanisms defy logic. It is a riddle made into stone and steel, and the question of its creator is a wound that will not heal. The most commonly whispered theory attributes the Vault to the Emperor himself. That before the Great Crusade truly began, the Emperor foresaw the horror that would follow, Horus, the ruinous powers, the Long War, and constructed the Omega Vault as a last bulwark against a final future too dark to describe. The Vault, in this vision, is a prophetic machine, keyed to the timeline of galactic decay, meant to deliver salvation one fragment at a time. The Emperor's hand, capable of creating the Primarchs and altering reality, could surely have made such a construct. But this is the most comforting theory. And like all comforts in the grim darkness of the far future, it is likely false. A more plausible and far more chilling possibility is that the Omega Vault was built by a lost sect of the Mechanicum, the so-called Null Mechanicus. Heretics whose obsession with predictive machinery led them into darker realms of knowledge. Some claim they discovered the secret to causal inversion, the ability to encode the results of future events into present matter. If this is true, then the Vault may be the culmination of their research, a machine that reads timelines and selects outcomes. It would explain why so many of its gifts are tailored to events that have not yet happened. If the Null Mechanicus built the Vault, they are long vanished, or hiding within it still. Other theories reach further afield. Some Xeno scholars suggest the Vault is not of human origin at all, that it predates the Imperium, that it is, in fact, an ancient Necron repository, a living chronovault, perhaps once part of a larger structure shattered in the war in heaven. Its predictive nature, its impossible material resilience, and its inscrutable silence all echo Necron design principles. And yet, the Vault does not share Necron purpose. It does not seek dominion or order. It simply watches, waits, and reveals. An even stranger notion is that the Vault was constructed by the Old Ones, not the mythical beings themselves, but by some forgotten remnant of their legacy. The Eldar would never admit such a thing, but a few fragments of recovered Xenos prophecy hint at a silent casket of threads hidden among the stars to preserve balance in times of galactic upheaval. Could the Vault be a kind of galactic counterweight meant not to empower but to stabilize? If so, what happens when it finishes delivering its contents? Still more radical voices speak of the Vault as an artifact of the warp itself, a crystallized idea anchored to real space by some ancient ritual, bleeding reality forward like a divine wound. These theories often lead to madness, and many who pursue them end up silenced by the Ordo Xenos. But they cannot be entirely dismissed. The Vault behaves like something aware, and aware things in the Warhammer galaxy rarely do so without motive. And there are always the rogue theories, the lonely inquisitor who claims to have found a similar structure buried beneath the surface of a world long destroyed by exterminatus. The renegade tech priest who believed the Vault was a prison, not a vault, and that every object it released weakened the cage that held something inside. The Deathwatch chaplain who declared, before sealing himself into voluntary cryostasis, that the Vault would open completely only once, and when it did, the stars themselves would scream. No explanation fits all the facts. No theory can account for every opening, every dream, every whisper. And perhaps that is the point. Perhaps the Vault is meant to remain inexplicable, to force those who guard it to live in mystery, to keep their minds open to the impossible, the terrifying, the heretical. Because in a galaxy filled with monsters, perhaps the greatest weapon is not certainty, but the courage to face what you do not and cannot understand. Among the many whispered interpretations of the Omega Vault's purpose, one theory has taken on a life of its own, that the Vault is not merely a repository, but a prescient arsenal, that it does not simply contain useful tools, but rather contains the exact instruments required for specific future Xenos threats. The implications of this are staggering. If true, it means the Vault is not reactive, but proactive, engaged in a war across time itself, selecting weapons for battles that have not yet begun. This notion took root among the Watch commanders after multiple operations were shaped entirely by items retrieved from newly opened chambers. One such event involved the emergence of a crystalline orb humming with subsonic pulses, which, when activated, disabled the camouflage abilities of a rare and previously unseen alien predator. The kill team that recovered the orb had been dispatched before the creature had ever been identified. The orb, the team, the mission, each aligned as if orchestrated from a higher, unseen vantage. Such precision defies coincidence. If the Vault's artifacts were merely ancient, randomly uncovered technology, they would be of mixed utility, some potent, some useless. But that is not what the records show. Each object, whether weapon, data core, or coded prophecy, serves a function against a Xenos threat that soon manifests. In effect, the Vault is waging its own war of anticipation, a war in which the Death Watch are not just soldiers, but instruments of its vision. This predictive nature has forced a fundamental shift in strategy within the Death Watch command hierarchy. Rather than relying solely on field intelligence and conventional reconnaissance, Erioch's highest-ranking officers now consider the Vault's gifts as operational directives. If a device emerges, they interpret it. If a set of coordinates appears etched into metal, they send teams. If a new class of ammunition is found, they assume the target it was meant to kill is already on the move. The Vault has become a lens, and through it, they glimpse a future written not in prophecy, but in probability. And yet, this new doctrine carries a hidden cost. It breeds dependence. Some Watch captains have begun to delay action in hopes the Vault will provide clarity. Some librarians now study the Vault's patterns instead of meditating on the warp. In seeking to fight smarter, the Death Watch may be surrendering their initiative, slowly turning from hunters into hounds that wait for a command. There is a growing fear among the most stoic veterans that they are no longer serving the Imperium alone, but serving a deeper agenda dictated by the Vault's unfathomable awareness. More troubling still are the occasions when the Vault's offerings suggest strategies or tools that run counter to the Codex Astartes or even morality itself. A vial of mutagenic compound capable of rewriting Xenos DNA into human-compatible tissue, a sphere that emits frequencies known to drive non-psychic species into homicidal frenzy, a set of shackles that, when applied to a specific tyrannid strain, suppress its hive link, but leave it alive and capable of pain. These items pose questions the Death Watch are not meant to answer. But the Vault does not care about comfort. It offers what is effective. And what of those items that have not yet found their use? Entire chambers exist within Erioch, containing relics whose purpose remains unknown. Some glow faintly in time with Erioch's power core. Others change shape depending on who observes them. There is a sword that cannot be drawn until a certain Xenos name is spoken, a name no one yet recognizes. There is a scroll that burns all written accounts of itself but remains intact. These are not tools, they are riddles, and each one waits for its moment. In time, the Vault has become more than a source of aid. It has become a doctrine of its own. Precognitive warfare, some call it. The idea that victory lies not in faster reflexes or stronger guns, but in anticipating the shape of the enemy's mind. To know what the alien will do before it does it. To think in cycles of war beyond the mortal span. To fight not today's battle, but tomorrow's. The Omega Vault, if this theory holds, is not just helping the Death Watch survive. It is forging them into something more. Something beyond the old doctrines. a force not just of reaction, but of cosmic foresight. And if that is true, then the Reach may not be its only battleground. The whole galaxy may be its chessboard, and the pieces are already moving. There are whispers, hushed even among the Death Watch, that the Omega Vault is not simply a device, not merely a repository, not even a weapon. They speak of it in the kind of low tones usually reserved for the warp or for gods. They ask, what if the Vault is alive? Not in the sense of biology. It does not breathe, bleed, or think in ways that mortal minds can measure. But its behavior, reactive, strategic, even emotional in its precision, suggests a kind of awareness. The Vault opens not at random, but with purpose. Its gifts are not static, but evolving. Some even change after being retrieved, adapting to new threats or users. This is not machinery. This is will. The idea that the Vault possesses sentience terrifies even the Inquisition, because if it is aware, then it has intent. And if it has intent, then every opening, every object, every moment of silence is a decision, a choice made by something that sees more than we can, a being or entity that is playing a game we do not even understand. Those who spend extended time near the Vault begin to exhibit subtle changes, a tendency to dream in non-Euclidean geometries, a growing obsession with numbers, especially prime sequences that appear without context. Some begin to speak in languages they have never studied, alien tongues that share patterns across distinct Xenos dialects. These are not side effects. They are communications. The Vault does not simply contain knowledge. It transfers it. One particularly disturbing report involves a watch librarian who meditated before the sealed vault in search of psychic insight. He emerged hours later, silent and pale, having gouged a series of fractal runes into his own flesh using nothing but a stylus. These symbols, when cross-referenced with xenolinguistic databases, corresponded to both Tau and Eldar prophecy traditions, impossible by any standard. The librarian is now kept in stasis, occasionally twitching as though reacting to unseen stimuli. There are those who propose that the Vault is not just sentient, but interactive, that it responds not merely to events, but to observers, that it chooses what to reveal based on who is watching. If true, then every act of observation becomes a kind of conversation, one in which the Death Watch may never have been the speaker. Some veterans avoid even looking at the Vault directly, fearful of what it might see in them. For a thing that knows time surely also knows identity. This interpretation brings forth troubling theological implications. If the Vault is aware, then is it a servant of the Emperor, a divine machine sent to aid humanity in its darkest hour? Or is it something else, an ancient intelligence, perhaps no longer aligned with any species or cause, choosing sides not by virtue but by entropy? Could it even be testing the Death Watch, shaping their responses to threats to forge them into something other than human? Others claim it is a fragment of something greater, a piece of a higher consciousness distributed across space and time, a node in a network that spans galaxies. If so, then the Vault's behavior is not local, but directed by stimuli from across the stars. Each opening, each relic, is a note in a cosmic dialogue, and Erioch is simply the location where that conversation becomes audible. There is also evidence, circumstantial but compelling, that the Vault sometimes withholds, that it could offer help, but doesn't, that it waits to see what choices the Death Watch will make without guidance. In these moments, entire squads have been lost. Missions have failed. But later, when new chambers open, they sometimes reveal the consequences. Fragments of the fallen, echoes of what might have been, alternate versions of events written in war-scarred metal. It is as if the Vault is not merely observing, but judging. If the Omega Vault is alive, then the Death Watch are not its masters. They are its audience, its tools, and perhaps its students. It may love them in the way a gardener loves their plants, with pruning shears and fire. Or it may be indifferent, performing some larger directive that views even the extinction of mankind as a necessary experiment. But whether sentient, sapient, or something else entirely, one truth remains. The vault knows. It knows things it should not. It knows threats before they arrive. It knows paths that have not yet been walked. And worst of all, it knows us. The Tyranid threat was never just another Xenos invasion. It was the breaking of a fundamental truth, that the galaxy, however violent, obeyed a kind of rhythm. The Hive fleets shattered that. They were not invaders. They were consumption incarnate. And among them, Hive Fleet Dagon was something worse. A predator evolved not just to feed, but to test. In the Jericho Reach, it was Dagon that forced the Death Watch to stare deepest into the abyss. And in doing so, it drew forth from the Omega Vault answers that should not have existed. The emergence of Hive Fleet Dagon was not a surprise to Erioch. That alone was cause for unease. Before the fleet made its presence fully known, the vault had already opened. A chamber revealed a cluster of gene-spliced organisms sealed in cryostasis, each genetically tailored to intercept Tyranid synapse commands. These living biorefractors were deployed in secret across the Reach, and when Dagon came, they worked, briefly, disrupting its cohesion just long enough to win critical engagements. But how did the vault know? More chambers followed, a stasis sarcophagus holding the bones of a creature almost identical to the Dagon strain, except older, much older. A sample of symbiotic mold that, when exposed to a lictor's spore trace, erupted in lethal fungal growth. A series of pict etchings that, when translated, mapped the behavior of Dagon's splinter forces before any contact had occurred. These were not lucky discoveries. They were battle plans, delivered before the war began. This has led many within the Death Watch and the Ordo Xenos to believe that Hive Fleet Dagon was anticipated, that perhaps it was provoked. There are even darker whispers, that the Vault may have known Dagon would come because it helped create it. Some theorize that the Vault's temporal knowledge allowed it to seed the necessary mutations across the void long before the fleet's arrival, not to prevent the threat, but to prepare mankind for it, to test our defenses, to make us ready for what comes after. This theory gains traction when one considers the scale of Dagon's push. It was aggressive, adaptive, but not apocalyptic. Unlike Behemoth or Leviathan, Dagon did not press beyond the Reach. It focused, clawed, consumed, but it also waited. Some Death Watch veterans liken its behavior to that of a hunting hound, flushing prey toward its master. Was Dagon the vanguard of something else? And did the Omega Vault know the answer? The most damning piece of circumstantial evidence came during the siege of Garanthus. As Hive Dagon descended upon the fortress moon, the Omega Vault opened with unprecedented violence. Entire walls shifted. A new wing emerged. Inside was a set of coordinates, a single bolter inscribed with Xenos runes, and a brief Vox recording of an unknown speaker stating, "If the moons fall, the eye opens." The coordinates led to a system not yet charted. The bolter fired a frequency that passed through void shields and triggered dormant psychic resonance within the Tyranid command creatures. When used, it caused the larger beasts to convulse and break formation, briefly but decisively. The siege was broken. But the phrase lingered. The eye opens. Was it the Vault speaking? Was it Dagon? Or something that watches both? Some Death Watch analysts believe that Dagon was meant to draw the Vault out, to push it, to stress its timelines, and reveal the extent of its predictive capabilities. If so, it succeeded. But the Vault did not falter. It responded with elegance, with precision, with power. Which leads to the next question. Who was testing whom? Did Dagon arrive to challenge mankind? Or did it arrive because the Vault needed it to? Is it possible that the Hive Fleet, blind and instinctive though it may seem, was reacting to the presence of the Vault? That some fragment of the Hive mind recognized the threat not just in the Death Watch, but in the impossible precision of Erioch's black heart? The notion is terrifying, that a force as vast and unknowable as the Tyranids might feel the Vault, might fear it, might adapt to it. There are signs that Dagon's later forms began resisting the Vault's relics, that their adaptations turned not against human tactics, but against Vault artifacts themselves, a biological arms race spanning the boundaries of time and design. Whether Hive Fleet Dagon was a test, a target, or a mirror, one truth stands immutable. The Vault was ready. More ready than anything else in the Reach. And if it was ready for Dagon, then the real question is, what is it preparing for next? There are things whispered in the shadowed cells of inquisitorial black ships, fragments of visions, stolen prophecy, hints of doom carved into the psychic winds of the galaxy. Among them, one phrase recurs with eerie consistency. When the Omega Vault speaks fully, the stars shall end. It is a line dismissed by some as apocrypha, a madman's raving. But those who have served long in the Death Watch, who have stood before the Vault's terrible stillness, do not dismiss it. They remember, and they fear. Because the Vault does not merely react to crises, it escalates them. Its most recent openings have revealed not just weapons or data, but warnings. On one occasion, a chamber opened to reveal an hourglass containing sand that glows with psychic heat. It runs backwards. No force can alter its pace. When first discovered, it counted down from 113 years. It now shows 71. Another chamber produced a star map etched into the shell of a dead insect, depicting systems that, upon later inspection, had been eradicated by sudden warp anomalies. The map updated itself over time. Systems faded from it weeks before they were consumed. And perhaps most chilling, a tome bound in human skin, titled The Final March. It was found open to a page that simply read, "The Emperor's silence is not consent. It is preparation." What that means, if anything, is unknown. But the timing of the tome's emergence corresponded with a massive increase in anomalous warp echoes across the Reach. To many within the Inquisition, this pattern suggests that the Omega Vault is not just reacting to Xenos threats. It is reacting to something larger, a convergence, a galactic event so vast it cannot be named directly, a final alignment of stars, species, and fates. In hushed tones, it is referred to as the Vault's end state, and whatever it is, the Vault appears to be accelerating toward it. This has led to a terrifying hypothesis, that the Vault's ultimate purpose is not to preserve the Imperium, but to prepare it for death, for transformation, for ascension. That its final gift may not be salvation, but revelation, a last truth, to be given only when all lesser hopes have failed. Support for this theory comes from the increasingly esoteric nature of the Vault's contents. Items that once had clear tactical use now seem symbolic, ritualistic, even mystical. A blade that burns with flame only when held by someone who has taken a vow of silence. A cube that contains recordings of voices speaking a language that makes blood boil. A set of armor that cannot be pierced by any weapon, but only if the wearer believes themselves already dead. These are not tools of war. They are emblems of change. Some Inquisitors believe the Vault is gathering mankind's collective fate into a singular crescendo, that every war fought in the Reach, every mission ordered by Erioch, every relic drawn from the Vault is part of a ritual sequence meant to unlock something buried beneath reality itself. A cosmic ritual, not to summon a god, but to confront one, or perhaps to become one. It is also noted that the Vault responds to prophecy. When Psychers speak of doom, when Eldar seers whisper warnings of galactic tides, the Vault stirs. Its mechanisms shift slightly. Its interior lights pulse, like a heartbeat echoing through time. One watch captain, upon reciting a passage from the Book of Magnus in a sealed meditation cell, caused a door in the Vault to open without sound. Inside was a mask made of living crystal, shaped like his own face. What is coming may not be an apocalypse in the traditional sense. It may be a metamorphosis, an unraveling of the galaxy's current form into something new, something more terrible or more divine. And the Omega Vault, by its own inscrutable design, is both the midwife and the mourner. It will help bring about that end, and it will weep for it. Among the Death Watch, there is an unspoken belief. When the last chamber of the vault opens, the Jericho Reach will no longer exist, not in the way it does now. Whether it will be annihilated, purified, or transformed, no one can say. But the vault's countdown continues. Its rhythm grows louder. The end state approaches, and all the galaxy can do is prepare for the final gift, or the final judgment. There are corridors in Watch Fortress Erioch that end in nothing but black, lightless gates, sealed, silent, unmoving. These are the deepest vaults, the final thresholds that even the Inquisition dares not open. And at the center, untouched since the fortress was discovered, lies a single door of smooth obsidian, unmarked by symbol or rune. It has never opened, not in all recorded history. It is the heart of the Omega Vault, the final seal. What lies beyond it is the most fevered question in the Reach. Entire philosophies have been constructed around that door. Some believe it holds a weapon so powerful, so absolute, that its mere activation would unmake entire sectors. Others whisper that it is a gate, not just through space, but through time, a portal to a moment of cataclysm that the vault has held back through sheer will. And there are those, scholars, madmen, prophets, who insist that what lies beyond is not an object at all, but an entity, something sealed by the Emperor's design, something that must not be named. The Death Watch do not speculate openly, but even the most battle-hardened warriors offer silent prayers when walking near that final threshold. The deeper one ventures, the more reality distorts. Vox signals scramble, chronometers glitch. On some occasions, Space Marines have reported auditory hallucinations, voices speaking in reverse, the clang of chains dragging across ancient stone, the sound of thunder with no storm. Others report nothing, only the overwhelming absence of sound, as though the universe itself holds its breath near that seal. There are records, ancient, fragmented, of attempts to breach the door. One account describes a tech priest attempting to interface with it using a relic cogitator brought from Mars itself. He vanished. Another speaks of a psychic choir singing in unison to awaken the door. Only static filled the chamber. The choir did not survive. Whatever lies beyond, it is not meant to be accessed by force. It is waiting, but not sleeping. Some believe the door is alive, like the rest of the vault, and that it listens, that it judges, that the contents beyond will only be revealed when the galaxy itself stands at a precipice. If so, the increase in vault activity, the escalating tempo of its openings, suggests that moment is drawing near. Speculations abound. One theory holds that the final seal guards a lost Primarch, not a loyalist or traitor, but one erased from history entirely. A figure so dangerous or so vital that even memory of him was purged. His stasis capsule perfectly preserved, ready to return when mankind has no other hope. But others fear that it is not a savior who lies in wait, but a weaponized corpse. A being whose mind was sacrificed to create a psychic bomb, a final ace in the Imperium's dying hand. Another belief points to the dark age of technology, that the vault was constructed around an AI god, a fully sapient machine being held in temporal suspension, neither alive nor dead. If awakened, it could guide mankind into a new age, or turn its wrath upon the stars. Some say the seal radiates techno-sorcerous energy patterns similar to those found in Men of Iron crypts. If so, then perhaps the seal was never meant to be opened. It is a coffin, a cage. A more esoteric notion suggests that the vault itself is merely a vessel, and the final chamber contains a seed, a proto-reality construct, a fragment of the galaxy's design code. If released, it could rewrite existence itself, reshaping physics, time, causality. This theory is considered heretical even to mention. But those who have studied the pattern of the vault's offerings believe the artifacts have been building to something. A language, a syntax, preparing the minds of humanity to comprehend what lies within. And then there are those who refuse to theorize, who believe the mystery must be preserved, that to know what lies beyond the final seal is to invite destruction. To understand it may be to trigger it. Knowledge in the Imperium is not always power. Sometimes it is apocalypse, but one truth remains. The vault is changing. It grows louder, more restless. What was once silent now pulses faintly with energy. The seal has begun to respond. Not open, not yet. But hum, quiver, shift. The final lock remains intact, but for how long? What lies beyond the final seal may be the salvation of mankind, or its doom, or something worse, a choice so terrible that none have yet dared imagine it. A choice the vault has saved for last, and the moment to choose is almost here. Now, it opens. The Omega Vault, sealed for millennia, speaks more often than it ever has. Not with words, but with openings, swift, deliberate, terrifying. Chambers once thought forever closed now reveal their contents in rapid succession. Patterns are collapsing. Prophecies once whispered in contradiction now align. And Watch Fortress Erioch, once a bastion of cold preparation, now thrums with urgency. The vault is not just predicting anymore. It is reacting. It is acting. Veteran watch captains speak of a change in the vault's pulse. Yes, pulse, for they are now certain it possesses a rhythm, as if it were the heart of something vast, buried beneath causality itself. That rhythm has quickened. Doors open unprovoked. Artifacts emerge without request. Some speak, others scream. One recently delivered relic consisted of a mirror that reflected only futures, possible, horrible futures, scenes of terror in flame, of alien gods walking in human skin, of the Astronomicon flickering out like a candle crushed in a gauntlet. The Death Watch have redoubled their missions. Erioch's kill teams now deploy with unprecedented frequency, often with relics freshly issued from the vault. Every planet scorched, every Xenos hive burned, feels less like a victory and more like a desperate rearrangement of pieces on a board we do not understand. The vault is not calm. The vault is frenzied, and the seal, the final seal, has shifted. Witnessed by multiple Watch Marines and recorded in 3 independent machine logs, the obsidian door trembled. A sound was heard, deep, almost subsonic. Not a voice, not a roar, a breath. As though something on the other side had awoken and was drawing in the air of the present for the first time in eons. The implications are unspeakable. In response, the Inquisition has escalated its presence. Erioch now houses more Ordo Xenos personnel than any other fortress in the Reach. Some Inquisitors argue that the vault should be sealed by Exterminatus-grade fusion fire. Others believe its final opening is fated and must be observed. And a very small, very secretive few think the vault is not just reacting to threats, it is summoning them, bringing the galaxy to a critical point, a convergence it requires. Because the vault does not want to be ignored, it wants to be seen. The time for speculation is over. We are not just witnessing the vault's culmination, we are living it. The Jericho Reach may have always been a crucible, a place chosen not by chance but by design, where prophecy, weapon, and war collide. And now, the vault, the very soul of Erioch, is wide awake. The Omega Vault is opening, and what it guards is not a secret. It is a question for the Imperium, a question for the galaxy, a question for us. What do you do when your last weapon isn't a weapon, when it's a truth? If you found yourself pulled into the mystery, the dread, and the awe of what Watch Fortress Erioch might be protecting, consider subscribing. There are more riddles in the void, and one day they too will open.